Welcome to Pep Talks, everybody. I am not your host, Eddie Pepitone. I'm Stephen Lally. You know me. I'm the sidekick, the co-host. Eddie is living his dream on the road. He's living the dream of a 25-year-old comic, driving around the South, making people laugh. And tonight, I think he's in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I want to plug that up front in case I forget. If you're in Hot Springs, Arkansas, or any of the surrounding areas, go see Eddie, eddiepepitone.com if you want tickets or you just want to know where that show is. Today, I am joined by, this is a very special podcast because I'm joined by one of my oldest comedy friends in the game, Mr. Trenton Stuart Jones.
Yay! Hey, glad to be here.
Man, we're so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have you here. Trenton and I go back to, when did we actually meet?
I don't know when we met, but I say late 1990s, early
2002.
But it was in the urban
Mixed
clubs.
Nuts? Was it
Mixed Nuts, the Comedy Union? I even want to say the Comedy Act Theater, but I'll stay and say Mixed Nuts and the Comedy Union.
Okay.
Because, man, we used to go through some things there. You know,
Yeah.
like people don't really understand. That's how you cut your teeth when you really like sometimes it goes deeper than, like, oh, I got roaches and I got rats. And you and I have never been those kind of comics. We've always wanted to be the Chris Rocks that talk about the social issues, but make people laugh and at the same time go,
So, for those of you who don't know, and I know you don't know, Mixed Nuts Comedy Club is a comedy club that was on Washington and Crenshaw in L.A. And I would say maybe there were 4 or 5 white comics who would go through this club. This is a black comedy club.
At that time, just even being on Washington Ave was like, okay.
Yeah, although I will tell you that Bo P hosted the show. The first time I did the Mixed Nuts, Bo P was the host, and it was Tuesday, and I was a new so the club said, Benet said, come down on Tuesday. Nigerian guy who owned the club, come down on Tuesday. So Tuesday was like the day where you could go down and do a booked set, by the way. By the way, do you even hear about this anymore? A comic coming to town and getting a book set at a club. This is incredible. Nope. And he said, come down on Tuesday. So I came down, and Bo P, do you remember Bo P?
I do.
Okay, Bo P, and I remember this, going out on Washington and 10th and rolling a blunt and smoking a blunt on the street. And my white ass is looking around like, are you fucking kidding? Are you sure you want to be doing this? He goes, oh man, it's all right. Don't worry about it. Everything's cool. And I thought, I'm in an alternate reality right now of a place where this is such a strange and different.
You were not the only one, because that was gang territory. So even, like me coming down, at the time I lived in Arcadia, I just come from Oakland. I didn't know nothing about, Washington Ave, South, all of that. I was just like, all right, people are telling me, that was right before the riots. So
before the riots,
yeah.
you came in the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I came 92, but Rodney King was like, what, 93? Something like that. So that was before the riots. So like even us, we came down there and it was like, all right, you gonna get pressed. Are you Damu? Are you, throwing up the C? What's up? And many times my ass was saved because I was like, I'm a comic. And dude was like, man, tell me a joke then. I'm broke, All right, you could go. You get your pass. Like
that was with the Comedy Act Theater.
Yeah.
So Comedy Act Theater was before me. Comedy Act Theater, I moved out here in 2001. Comedy Act Theater was the first and only black comedy club in Los Angeles.
Yep.
And it was
Everybody
run
came to the hood.
by
Michael
a guy named Michael Williams, was the owner.
OG.
And totally. And he discovered, I guess you would say he discovered the late, great Robin Harris, who, Chicago, by the way, shout out to Chicago, created, innovated, brought Def Comedy Jam, the style of Def Comedy Jam, let's just say. I don't think he intentionally did that, but he was so powerful on stage, and he became such of an underground legend. I mean, just people from Hollywood were going to Leimert Park
industry
to see Robin Harris. Unheard of. And so the whole generation of comedy that ensued after that was all sort of variations on Robin Harris.
Robin Harris, and then just, like the class clowns out of every class, because you had Chris Tucker going through there, you had Martin Lawrence, you had so many people going through there. It was just like, man, I mean, to sit back and watch people, Roy Rice, you had Arnez J. I could just go on. Who's who in comedy right now? They came through there, and of course they went to Mixed Nuts and the Comedy Union. But
that was much later.
Yeah, like a couple of years later.
The Tories, Joe Torre, and all. That was the 90s. That was like the late 80s. Oh, I think 85 the club opened. So there was no Mixed Nuts till 98, 97 or something. I think,
like that.
Yeah. So maybe earlier, but gosh, this stuff is so fascinating to me, man.
Oh, man.
It's so fascinating that I ended up in that scene.
That's where you cut your stripes. I tell young comedians now, yeah, man, I do a lot of white rooms and I tour a lot of white clubs. But if you really, really, really want to see how good you are, go to an urban, AKA black audience. Because black people will let you know if you're funny, and they will let you know if
they won't let you get away with polite shit. Exactly.
Yeah,
they won't let you get away with polite shit. Out here, though, it's different than the East Coast or Chicago. Out here in the black room, if they don't like you and you're polite, if you're doing some white polite Hollywood improv bullshit, they'll just talk. They'll just have the conversation they wanted to have.
Or you hear, get your ass off the stage.
Well, that's you know what? That never happened to me. So maybe
it happened to me. Many times. One time.
Oh, shit. Do you remember where? Do you remember where that happened?
The Comedy Act, I bombed so bad one night, man. And at the Comedy Act, there was the stage was here, and there was the door that was way down there. So when you bomb, you had to really take the walk of shame. And everybody was looking at me so bad. And I saw this one beautiful girl who had like an inviting smile on her face, and I was happy. And I drifted over to her thinking, I don't care if nobody else felt me. She felt me. And when I got to her, she just was like, keep it moving, Bommy.
Man, this is at the beginning of your stand-up career.
Yeah. Because me, I had to learn how to work with the audiences, to have material that was relatable to audiences.
This is the funniest shit to me, because now when a comic starts out, they go to open mics.
Yeah.
But back then, you didn't have that option. Nah. You went up into the lion's den like it was ancient Rome. And it was going to be bread and circuses, and they're going to feed you to the gladiators.
Maverick Flats with J. Anthony Brown?
I played Maverick's Flat.
You talking about Gladiator. We were all there like Jaimin Hinsu. It's your turn. Go.
Yeah, except by the time that I got to Maverick's Flat, I was a seasoned. By the time I was playing Maverick's Flat, I was a pro. So I didn't have to go through that.
He wanted us to go through it.
Because it was his. He was throwing the meat to the lions.
And he was saying, look, you're either going to do this or you're not, but you're not going to BS. That's why I love Jay to this day, man, because he would just go, yo, who we got next? Oh, my man Head, come on, man. And that's what they used to call me back in the day. Come on, Head, come on. And people were rabid. And I was like, oh, man, all right. And there'd be nights you hit, and there'd be nights that you...
You know what? At Mixed Nuts, I will say I did go through this. So there was a host whose name we won't mention,
right,
who was a regular host of Mixed Nuts. And this is how he would bring me on. Your next, first of all, he would go, keep the show rolling. And then he'd point to you and he'd go, keep the show rolling. And then he'd go do 10 minutes about how he bought a pair of jeans at the 99-cent store. And then he'd go, keep the show rolling. And then he'd do another 5 minutes about, I don't know, the hood circus. And then he'd go, keep the show rolling. And then he'd go, now give it up for my man, Steve. He wouldn't even say my last name, man. He wouldn't even say your last name. And he didn't do that to everybody. He just did it to me. Steve. Give it up for Steve.
No credit,
no credit, nothing about him, not nothing. Not even he's funny, you're going to love this guy. Give it up for Steve. And man, I mean, you get really funny fast if you have to put up with that. But
But afterwards, they treated you like a king because they were like, the common denominator is be funny.
Man.
It don't matter if you white or black, because they'll be like the black comics, get your ass off this.
Man, and we saw a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
We saw a lot of that. But there was still love, even if, there were a couple comics who were not that great.
Right.
But you give them a place to be.
Yep.
And they get to hang around. And I think the 25-year-old me was like, what the fuck are these motherfuckers doing here? Why? What are you? You need to go get a job.
But you see, that right there was always funny because you'd see some comics that were horrible get good.
I won't even say the name of the guy because I would never say he was horrible on the record, but he was horrible. He was horrible. And he had the most obnoxious personality. He would stand outside the club, and it was him and Jarrell Jackson would go back, and Jarrell Jackson.
Right.
And Jarrell Jackson would be doing his Chris, man, I don't. And they'd be going back and forth, and this guy was so bad, and he would get on and do the same fucking awful, horrible set, and Benet would put him on.
Yeah.
Too. Because there weren't that many comics back in those days, and they had to put somebody on. And I won't say that the club owner was a connoisseur of comedy either. In fact, I think I was in the club because it was called Mixed Nuts, and he needed a mixed nut in there. And I was the white nut, the macadamia nut.
And don't forget Roger Rod, too. That's my boy.
But he was he's a bad motherfucker. He's a great comedian.
He is.
But he's senior to me. I mean, Roger, Nima. So the white comics, by the way, we can count on one hand.
Right. Honest John,
Nima Williams, Roger Rod. I'm trying to think of who. There are a couple other.
And I know Gary Owens was there. I just didn't really see him.
I never saw him. I never saw Ralphie May. I never saw. Who's the other guy? I don't know. But I think they had just gotten to a level where they didn't have to play that club.
Right.
But Bill came down there. Bill Burr came down there. So there were. But comics didn't want to play Mixed Nuts because it was a fucking bloodbath. But
you had to be funny.
You had to be funny.
That's the rule now too. Although there are many exceptions, I'm not going to say any names. Now it's more about making money. So if you can create a buzz that makes money, especially for the club owner doesn't give a damn. He's like, man, you're packing the seats. That's what a headliner does. And that's what I'm in business for, to make money. But back in the day, it was like, man, you're going to fuck my money off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Telling those horrible jokes and running people out of here.
Patrice O'Neill and I had a, and by the way, I found out later on, Patrice O'Neill did this to everybody. If you were a younger comic or you were whatever, he didn't like, he would just go at people. And he was down there and he was trying to make time with Kevin Hart. And Kevin Hart, by the way, this is Kevin Hart. Nobody knew Kevin Hart was even.
He came out of Mixed Nuts.
He came, well, I think he didn't.
Him and Tracy Morgan.
Well, shit. But this might be before me. This might be a little before I came. But Kevin, I knew, was on his way up. But Patrice was trying to make time with him, and I didn't. And I just came over to say hello. And man, Patrice, he fucking. What he said, what he did to me was probably not on par with what he's said and done to other people.
What did you do?
Oh, he just let me have it. Can't you see someone's talking to a motherfucker right here, right now? What the fuck you doing? I mean, he went, and I'm the white guy. And I got the fuck out of there. But I thought about it later, and I hear these stories about Patrice and how, I got booed off at the Laugh Factory at Chocolate Sundays on a show with him, by the way. Anything that I was in, any realm that I was in with him was bad for me,
right,
in general. But I heard stories about him just being, and I thought, I marinate and think about this, and just sit with it. And because there's got to be some wisdom, some comic wisdom that's going to come from this. And I realized this is a man, this is a black guy from New York who grew up with the name Patrice.
Okay.
And even think about that. This motherfucker grew up I don't know if he was in the Bronx, where he was, but you grew up with the name of the girl who nobody wanted to fuck in Coming to America. That's the name you grew up with. You had to fight your way out of...
I grew up in the Bronx with the name Trenton.
That's not as bad as Patrice.
I sound like a fucking nerd or fed.
You sound... That's white.
People are like, are you really black? Come on, man.
But Patrice, he didn't change it. He could have changed it to Patrick.
But he was big, too. So you know he threw them hands. I was narrow.
Fair enough. But still, like, that's gangster to not change your name from Patrice. I mean,
like you said, that's gangster.
It is gangster.
You know, so you kind of take on that us or me against whoever.
So you learn to swing at everybody.
And you know, there's this thing called the dozens, where it's like a gladiator shark pit that you go in and people are going to talk about you and you're going to talk about them, and thin skin always loses. It's just two people just saying the most vile and disgusting stuff at each other, but at the same time, getting a laugh. And you just learn how to defend yourself. So when you run up against a heckler, like guys like Patrice O'Neal, they were applesauce.
Nothing. Applesauce. Yeah. Yeah, man. We saw some... That I got very funny very fast down there. I got very funny very quickly down there. I was not that funny when I moved here. I was I don't know how I would I was a con. I was hustling. I had about 7 minutes of material.
We all did.
And it was fine, but man, I got funny in a year. I got extremely funny, and
best training grounds. Best training grounds. Because you know what? At the end of the day, comedy is about honesty. If you're transparent and I can see right through you and I can pick off these lame ass jokes you're trying to tell me.
Man.
But now, if you talk about, you know, like I used to hear all kind of crazy stuff, you know, T.K. Kirtland talking about, you know, he's going out with a girl, but the girl is disrespectful, so he started fucking the mom, and now the girl's got to leave because he's interrupting him and her mama. I'm like, only people, and this is why this is the essence of comedy. You know what I mean? People can take stories and use their imagination and make you go, what?
Amazing, man. Corey Holcomb was another one. Corey Holcomb, TK. I loved... My favorite was to sit and watch Derek Ellis.
Oh man, he's
still man.
I know that you guys had that same ilk. You were under that same tree, but he's like that smooth brandy.
Oh my God.
But like a haymaker that's gonna hit you. And if you listen to him, pure genius.
I remember he had Bobby Law had a show at Club Silk. So Bobby Law, the greatest. I never worked with Robin Harris, but in my life, the greatest host that I ever saw was Bobby Law. And he was a musician and a comic, and he would come on and play music. And
ex-Marine, always
ex-Marine, that's right.
My dog,
and
man.
He brought us to, I did a paid gig down at Miramar, down at Camp Pendleton with him.
Many. I used to run with him.
Yeah.
You know, we were born on the same day, 1 year apart.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Great host, great comic, and amazing guy. Yeah. Just an amazing human being.
And funny, Uncle Cleophas.
Oh,
just
man.
Ridiculous.
Funny.
Hoes be jocking and jocking and jocking.
Yeah. Started comedy at the Family Room in Gardena. Ooh. They don't want to say it's Compton down there, but that's all right.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, Bobby had a club called Club Silk, and I don't even know how long this club went on. I think the comedy might have gone on for, I think it maybe went a month. But Derek Ellis, to me, I would watch Derek Ellis and think, holy shit, this guy's funny. Mm-hmm. And I had to follow him. And I followed him. And I'll never forget that, because I went, oh, I'm a man. I just followed.
The man.
I followed the man.
Yes.
There were things like that. Like then later on, Screw, you know, Roy Rice. Mm-hmm. Not someone you want to follow. Not someone you really want to follow. And I'm not even saying he would be killing it, but he will leave the room in disarray. And I had to headline a show at the Liquid Lounge in Long Beach. Woo. And he went on right before me. And that was my bar mitzvah. That was my real bar mitzvah.
Check, please.
I followed Screw at the Liquid Lounge in Long Beach. Sometimes when I'm bombing, I'll yell at the audience, fuck you. I followed Screw at the like that should be my resume. My comedy resume. I followed Screw. I headline.
You know, people in Long Beach be like, we don't give a shit. Be funny. Or get your ass off the stage.
And when I say Long Beach, I don't mean by the Queen Mary, okay? I mean this was not the touristy section of Long Beach where the rich Chinese people come and live. This was
Belmont Shores. No.
No.
Bixby knows.
This was rough. This was rough. So yeah, man. So Trenton and I, the reason Trenton came on, I have actually hit up many of my friends from black comedy, and we were talking about this. Nobody comes on this show. So it's good that you came on, but there was a reason and impetus for this all to happen, which was I posted something on social media. I was political. By the way, it's not a good idea to post angry political shit on social media. I just want to say that up front. It's not a good idea. I know where it comes from. It comes from a place where no one will know this if I don't share it.
Share it, brother.
And no one will know it, and I will walk around frustrated that nobody knows this but me. That's where in my soul what's happening. I want to preface this by explaining that that's what's happening when I do that. And I posted an article. By the way, the article I posted was completely forgotten. However,
could you elaborate a little bit on the article?
The article was about Barack Obama becoming public that Barack Obama was detracting, promising that he would help the Democratic Party stifle Bernie Sanders' campaign and I'm a Bernie Sanders guy, big time, and I'm not going to get into all that because you already know my politics. But I voted for Obama passionately, and we had a party, Mike Bataya and I, the night Obama was elected. The night Obama was elected, we had a party. Just to illustrate, we really, really liked Obama.
Right.
And then I didn't really like Obama. I watched Obama.
And what was this?
I watched Obama survive. I watched him and his family survive, and who knows what would have happened to them if he hadn't made the decisions and done the things that he did as his presidency. But I usually keep my Obama frustration in, but on this day I didn't. I posted that article, which, by the way, became a completely irrelevant part of the post because I posted it with the headline, my own commentary, Uncle Tom Obama.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, first of all, I didn't even understand the term Uncle Tom because I was using it, I was aping other people who've said it, black folks who've said Uncle Tom, and I've gone, this is what I'm trying to communicate is sell out, servant to white people, servant to the master, really, if you want to get, I could have said any of that, it would have all been bad too, but Uncle Tom, I said. And then Trenton and some other people came on and schooled me on what Uncle Tom meant, and that it wasn't the proper term.
Well, I came on too after I saw Sambo. Because you remember the big the commotion about Sambo. You know, people were like, oh, man, when I see you and this and that. And you're like, yeah, I said Uncle Tom and Sambo. And I was like, wait a minute, I know this guy.
Well, the Sambo was a question. The Sambo was, would Sambo mean what I was trying? I was asking, should it be Sambo?
Right.
Which was also not, not construed the way I probably meant it, which I was trying to get to the bottom of, I've used the term wrong, now explain. Some people did. And then one guy came on, and by the way, everybody was civil with me. So we're talking maybe 15 black folks who were all...
His frustrations were at a high point with Obama.
So everybody was civil with me on this.
Because I really thought you had got into like this back and forth and it just exploded, but now I see the picture.
Yeah, he said, I think black people, we need our own planet. And I said, well, and again, it was my ego. Oh, well, let me, this is bad, man. I said, well, you might want, I don't know what I said, but I think it ended with, you might want to get your own planet because the planet we're on will be no longer habitable. Wasn't good.
Damn,
wasn't good. So he said, when I'm come out to LA, I'd like to see you and see if you have the same energy about this that you have now. And I said, and of course I wouldn't back down, because I was like in that thing where we were talking about, where even if I was wrong, I was not gonna give. So I said, thank you for putting that on a bulletin board, a public bulletin board. That was where the bad exchange was. And then he said, anytime you racist motherfucker. And that was the bad, really. But after that, people were. So here's the weird part, though. Also, nobody sees my posts. This post was seen by. So the algorithm of hate or whatever's going on allowed people to be visible to so many people, and people were coming on after this, much long after this, and they were like, "Oh, this guy's a racist guy," and na. And I had, what they don't know is that I had sent that gentleman a private message 2 hours later. I walked around feeling like I was right, and then I sent him a private message apologizing to him, because what happened was I started to think, well, what if it was on the other foot? What if it was something about Netanyahu and it was all the Jews? I don't like Netanyahu, but I don't want to hear somebody disparage all Jewish people. And sometimes I do see that, by the way, and it makes me really upset. And so I thought that I was going for race, and it was bad, and I hurt some people's feelings bad. So I sent him a message, and I said, very heartfelt, and then he sent me back, happy Thanksgiving. Same. I feel the same way. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
And see, that was my thing, because like I just really wanted to know. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to take emotion out of stuff. Yeah, I don't want to hear black people being disparaged. And it happens a lot. And the way I've grown up is really, like, I always tell people, racism today is nothing like racism 50 years ago. I love racism today. You know what I mean? And then I do a bit, because, like, you can say anything you want to me. By the time I get tired of hearing you, I'm going to slap the fuck out of you. That's the bottom line. 50 years ago, it wasn't going down like that. Today, you might hear the N-word, or I don't want to live next to you. Like stuff people are like sniping. But 50 years ago, if somebody had a racial problem with you, you were not coming home. Somebody else became the head of the family. So like people's words, I try to like keep them in a context. And because I knew you, I said, man, I got to reach out to him first to tell him he's misusing the term Uncle Tom.
Well, that was a whole other thing.
Because
right?
I actually was schooled on that one, because like growing up, I was like one of the hardest dudes ever.
And you would say Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom, sellout. I'd use him in the same vein, sellout, coon, Uncle Tom. But then, I found out that Uncle Tom was really a slave named Josiah
who went
Henson.
through hell.
Yeah, and he provided opportunities. He liberated 100 people from the Underground Railroad and started, schools for slaves. But because there was an article written by him, I think it was Uncle Tom's Cabin and stuff like that,
famous.
In which it was famous, and it was like kind of like watering him down. The masses took to calling, he took on a negative connotation amongst blacks. And so, like, if you really wanted to sting, you used the term Uncle Tom, which it was incorrectly, used. The foundation of it is like, people are saying, oh, it means sell out this, that, and the other. No, this was a man that was a liberator. This was a man that did great things for African Americans. And so, like, a lot of times his name still gets maligned because of that book and because he was kind of watered down. So when I heard that, I was like, first of all, I'm disappointed, but also, I was like a scholar, like, oh, and you kind of misused Uncle Tom. But I didn't go to that I'm gonna see you level, because I knew you. And like I said, and this is one thing I have to let everybody know, I had watched you for years talk about social economical things and speak highly of African Americans and speak down on the oppressors of African Americans. I've seen you. I had to follow you at times. Didn't go as well either. And I had to follow you when people were like so hyped on you bringing truth and putting it through comedy. I watched people walk up to you and be like, yo, that's my N-word. And you were like, no, bro. You know, I'm with you in the struggle. I'm with you in terms of equality that you need, that we need. But I can't be with you by you giving me the N-word. And people were like, yeah, that's cool. And I would like watch that and I'd be like, man, this dude is awesome. Plus, you were stealing black women at the time. I was like, damn, what about me, girl? You don't want that watered down version. And they'd look at me like, but he's funny and you're not.
Shit, man, this is a history lesson for me. I mean, wow, Trenton, that's cool.
And when you have a relationship with someone, you give them the opportunity to say what's going on.
Right.
You don't just, oh, screw you, man. You know, that's what's going on now. People are like, okay, I heard from somebody, from a friend of a friend of a friend, or even a podcast, an excerpt of what you said. Does that dissolve 20 years of a friendship?
Well, to your point, also referring to Mel Gibson and the whole thing that happened with Mel Gibson. Racist, anti-Semitic stuff. I don't know Mel Gibson, okay? But there's something about it that makes me think, I don't know him. You know, I don't know the man.
Right.
And I'm not going to stop watching his movie because he said some shit. He probably was fucked up or whatever. So I guess it is sort of like a, you know, he who hasn't sinned cast the first stone kind of thing.
Even look at Kramer. You know, but like, it's not just white people. Now, this is where I get in trouble. It's not just white people. I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack, so let me just say it. Everybody has that belly seed of racism. You know what I mean? Newsflash, white people didn't invent racism. They may have kind of like over-excelled in it, you know?
Put the lighter fluid.
But like in Public Enemy's song, it says in one song, Can't Trust This, King in Chief may have had a big beef. Because of that, now I'm gritting my teeth. Talking about
slave trade.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, I'm not exonerating anybody. But until we really, really, really start to talk truthfully about things and really, really, really listen to people and sometimes suppress the anger so that the dialogue can start,
right,
we're never going to get anywhere. 400 years later, I was just listening to Ice Cube, and it says 200 years later, and we're still in the same place. What is that? Sign your death certificate album. I listen to that thing every morning because I think it's one of the most brilliant albums that was ever put together. There are others, but sometimes when I need a good run or, you know, I'm about to bang some hot chick, I need Ice Cube. But I knew you. So I needed to know what was going on.
Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here.
And we even talked about it then because I was like, man, that's such a departure from the Stephen that I knew. But then even as we began to talk, you were telling me about the disillusionment with Obama.
Right. So Uncle Tom Obama was my misdirected rage toward Obama. And a lot which I keep in because I liked Obama. And I think if we would have a frank discussion as a white guy, there is a Sidney Poitier fantasy that white people have with or had with Obama.
How so?
Meaning Mr. Tibbs is going to come into town, you know, Sidney Poitier is going to come into town like the heat of the night. He's erudite, he's cool. He's a fantasy that white people have that we have of the black guy who's going to come in and make things right. And that's a white liberal fantasy, right? This is the first time I'm even talking about this. So if I don't articulate it exactly right, you know.
We're on a podcast.
But for people like me who are disillusioned with that, who thought Obama represented, by the way, mistakenly represented and educated me because I, in my adult life, didn't have a president I voted for with enthusiasm. That was my first adult president that I went, oh, like Kennedy, like, you know, like Roosevelt, like I'm excited about this guy. And then watched him bail out Monsanto and expand drilling and by the way, and none of that
The
stuff.
banks.
Didn't put a Wall Street banker in jail. Didn't shut down Guantanamo Bay. Didn't make any of the campaign promises. He said, but, and here's where it gets complex. Save my life with the Affordable Care Act. So he saved my life because I had some medical things going on I couldn't afford. So
And he made sure that this country didn't go bankrupt. I mean, he may have not kept a lot of promises, but we were almost at that depression point.
recession.
We were at the recession point. We were almost at the depression point.
He threw a Band-Aid on the corpse.
Yeah,
he threw a Band-Aid on the corpse.
But here's the thing, too. I tell people all the time, what did you really think Obama was going to do? Because I hate to say this, but this is still the United States of America run by white people.
Well, let me answer that. What did I think Obama was going to do? I really thought he was going to change.
Really?
Yeah. That goes to that as looking back was a white liberal fantasy.
That was a black fantasy too, because we want to see change.
Right.
So they basically let him do a lot of social things that were good socially. One of them being the Affordable Health Care Act.
Right. Well, he had to fight tooth and nail for that too.
But he had to fight for everything.
Everything, I know.
When the Congress stands up and, when people say that nigger is not my president, I'm sorry for that word.
Yeah.
But when people are saying that openly.
Ted Nugent,
You know what I mean?
I want to put some bullets in him.
And so he really had to fight for everything. So at the end of the day, he did a lot of social stuff. But like things like closing down Guantanamo or, regulating the banks or, the fine. It just really was
the pipeline. I mean, the whole pipeline protest. So many things. So all of that, and then he's going to stop Sanders. And I just went, go away, man. Go run your fucking Netflix show with your wife and go and all this. And I know white people also who, I don't fault black folks, because if it was a Jewish guy, I'd be with him because I'd be proud of him that he was Jewish, But there are still friends of mine who are white who still are under the Sidney Poitier liberal fantasy thing. And all of those things on top of it, and I finally just snapped and I posted that and then that, and I didn't back off of it. See, I could have took my foot off the gas. That's another thing. So it was doubly fault on me that I didn't take my foot off the gas and ask, because people were hurt. There are people who are friends of mine who are hurt that I posted that. And that's...
But see, you're a symptom, though. You're a symptom of what's going on all around. People are debating to be right. And when they're wrong, the hardest thing to do is say, you know what?
I might not be right.
I might not be right. Or I'm wrong. Because even if you wanted to say it, people are not going to let you say it. They're going to want your head on a swivel. Oh, but you don't seem remorseful enough. Look at Michael Vick right now. The man has done jail time. He was at the height of his career. And that whole thing, him being a person who fought dogs, ruined his career as we knew it. But now even people are still like, oh, he doesn't seem remorseful. There's a guy on Facebook that's right now, he's just like, anytime there's an article, he has to chime in. The motherfucker still doesn't seem remorseful. And it's like, what do you want? These are the kind of people that just won't let shit go. Like, if they broke up with somebody, they'd still be at their door going, I told you, bitch, you'll never get rid of me. You know what I mean? What do you want? And see, when we stop trying to be right and try to have dialogue, then it'll be a lot easier. But there's a climate on both sides that needs to be right.
What do you think? It's a demonic thing? Do you think it's what?
It's sad because this is the thing now. Like, I get people crack up on this. Like, I just started watching all of these reality TV shows. You know what the common denominator is in these reality TV shows?
Don't do it, man.
The common denominator is they gossip like little bitches, and they form cliques. Whether it's a man show or a woman show, and the object is to be right. They don't even know what they're arguing over anymore half the time. It's about being right. And that's where our country is going, because people watch all this kind of stuff, and it's happening on TV, and it's happening in the House, and it's happening in the Senate, and it's happening all across the land. So now that's all we want to do, which says to me, there are a lot of empty motherfuckers out there. Because at the end of the day, if I'm wrong, I can still pay my rent. If I'm wrong, I can still pay my car note.
Do you ever see one of these, or have you ever been involved in one of these? Two people are in complete agreement about the same thing, and they're still arguing.
Still arguing.
They don't know that they're in agreement.
That's because they're not listening.
That's crazy, though.
That's weird, and it's happening all the time.
It happens all the time. Yeah.
You know, sometimes one person just has to go, whoa, man, I'm going to get off the ride now. You know, because, like, sometimes, like we were talking about, we live in an age now where facts don't matter. If I rock with this guy, or like we say, if I fucks with you, I fucks with you. But I've always been the guy, man, that if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to turn my back on you, but I'm going to tell you you're wrong, and I would expect you to tell me if I'm wrong. But tell me I'm wrong based on facts.
Right.
Don't tell me I'm wrong based on what I should be doing because the majority or the majority says this is how it's supposed to be done. Say to me, oh, here's some points, and I think, because I am that person.
That is the epitome of what I did wrong with that post. Because, first of all, nobody saw the post.
Right.
It was only about Uncle Tom Obama.
Right.
Nobody even commented about the post. The second thing is I have a rule that I live by, and sometimes when I follow it, it's amazing.
It goes
and you know
well.
what this rule is? This rule is when you're telling somebody what you think and you know you disagree with them, be gentle.
Yeah.
A velvet-covered iron hand, gentle. And that was not gentle, and that exactly did to me what I knew or I should have known it would do, because when I'm gentle, amazing shit happens, man. Amazing shit.
You can get more bees with honey than you can with vinegar.
So gentle. And the fact thing, like you're talking about, when you turn and you give them the fact, that's the discourse that it, you know, ideally in a perfect world, it would be. And I feel like when we were young and we were running around, it was more like that. People weren't as, it wasn't like a tripwire, like a grenade going off every time somebody disagreed with each other. Maybe the social media thing has caused it. I don't know. I don't know what the clues at the scene of the crime are, but I do remember, and I want to say this before I forget, I do remember when you say that I'm spouting philosophy in black clubs and talking about social commentary on stage, I want to share, because I know exactly what you're talking about specifically, because I remember the conversations we had, you and I don't know if this came before. I think it came before I was saying it on stage. One day we were at a show and I said, we were having a conversation and you were talking about being frustrated about not being able to be yourself on stage. And I said something like, we don't want you to seem too intellectual as a black guy.
I remember that.
So this was the beginning. You do remember that.
I do remember. And you know, the funny thing, you should say that, because while you were talking right now, I'm like, first of all, thinking, why the fuck are you having conversations about Obama and your disillusionment in an open forum? You are too smart for the average person, because not only can you articulate your point about discomfort or disillusionment, you have all of these points that you will pull up. But once again, we don't work on facts. We work on feelings. Even if we say, oh man, I'm disappointed with Obama, people are going to be like, that's all they hear.
This is the most diabolical thing. If I had said I'm disappointed with Obama, nobody sees that post.
Nah.
It was the Uncle Tom Obama. This is where I say the devil, I bring the darkness into this.
What are you drinking, Steven? What are you drinking?
Mad Dog 2020.
Ah, that's the best. It'll bring the truth out of you whether you want.
Like sitting in a wife beater with a stogie, with a blunt.
Sometimes, you know, though, you just gotta, like, I hate to say this, but sometimes I just tell people I'm just too smart to have this dumbass conversation with you. You know what I mean? And I feel the part about walking around frustrated a lot, but at the same time, it's like, man, when I get drawn in, I feel like a sack of shit. I feel so dirty because I knew better, and they dragged me in. Or I put something out there and I could have like,
you know what?
stopped.
You could have just stopped, and the ego is fucks with you because you want to. Well, it's a long conversation, brother, for another time, right. Because it's a long conversation of all of the dissatisfaction from not having enough money or not getting laid enough, and there's one woman on Facebook who she posts. I'm a fan of her, by the way. Her name's Nunsy, Nunsy. Talk about an underground. This chick, she's super smart. I'm with her on her politics, and she loves showing her body off.
Ooh, Nunsy. Huh?
Nunsy. If you're out there, you should check this girl out on Facebook. She just does it for pure pleasure. There's no monetary gain involved, and she's hysterical, and she's totally street, but she's hot. And she
what you saying? Street bitches can't be hot?
Well, she's still feminine. She's not the dancer at the strip club with the knee brace. She's sexy, and she just loves showing herself off. And but I've noticed today there's like 3 or 4 really angry political posts, really angry, and I'm like, oh no, she's not getting the dick. She's missing the dick.
You need to DM her and say, hey, listen.
I've DM'd her many times.
Let's knock off this frustration.
She doesn't find me attractive. She doesn't find, because I know, because she posts anyway.
Oh, do they look like me? Nunsy, I'm with you.
Man, here's a shout out to Nunsy. You
Nunsy.
got some free Pep Talks promotion today. You don't even have to come on the show. That's the thing, man. Somewhere there's some hot women sitting around going, Stephen Lolly and Trenton. No, probably not.
But the thing about it is we get our share. And we get our share because we are real. You know what I mean? My friend just got paid, a young comic. He just got paid $10 for his first show. He was all excited. I said, wait till somebody has sex with you because you were funny. That is going to be more than that $10. That $10 you can frame. But that strain, all you have to do is sit back on those days when you become that old comic and it hasn't happened and you can go,
yeah. Thank God for that memory. That memory. I'm to the point in my career where women are interested in me, just so that I give my interest in attractive women. It gives them confidence so they can go fuck some other guy. I don't know when all of this happened, because I used to look at your page and you'd be with this one. And oh man, I lost my edge, man.
And you never had that short man complex. You never had anything. You just were like a boss. I was like, man, this dude, he's got it up here, and this is getting him all the na.
I was getting some action.
Oh man, dude, the thing I like listening to with any person is when they come from a real angle. And when I used to listen to you, man, sometimes you would say things, man, that I honestly said, man, they could kill you for that shit. Because I grew up in that era. I saw Kennedy killed. I saw Malcolm X killed. I saw Martin killed. That was the era when people didn't like you. You just came up like Morrison and Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. People go, oh, drug induced. Who's to say the government wasn't like, that's enough?
Bill Hicks.
You know what I mean? Because these were people that had something to say.
Yeah.
Bob Marley. These were people that had something to say.
That was a weird one, Bob Marley. That was John Lennon.
I thought that was going to happen to Obama, some weird shit. I was afraid of that.
You know what? The truth is, maybe that's why it didn't. All the things that I'm frustrated with, maybe those are the reasons that Obama did not have that happen to him. And I have thought that consciously.
Or Melania and the other daughter didn't come up missing, or Michelle didn't come up missing. Because this is people's money.
Big time.
You don't fuck with old money. And
Kennedy was going to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Hello.
He signed an executive order to gradually phase out the Federal Reserve.
Hello. Plus, he didn't come through on promises he made to certain folks.
Right. Well, we could have. I don't know enough about it, but I know. Yeah. And
that was an era, man, where
What about Epstein? What do you think about Epstein?
I say this about Epstein. If you like a good fairy tale, Just buy into that one, that he hung himself. Or just watch that episode on The Wire where, the dude, he kills himself and they're like, oh, he hung himself. No. They lay out all the angles why he couldn't have killed himself.
Absolutely did not kill himself.
You know what I mean? But once again,
Do you think
this
he's
is
still
the
alive?
power.
Do you think he's still alive?
Yeah, he's on that island with Bruce Lee and Tupac.
Supposedly they set the island on fire. I mean, this is crazy shit, man.
The island of misguided superheroes.
I deeply believe in God, and I know people have heard that on this.
So do I, by the way.
Deeply believe in God, and Jesus said we're not struggling against flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. The powers and principalities the veil's coming off.
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening. That's what I think is happening.
But at the same time, there's a resistance to that veil being pulled off because it's being pulled off. It's like we've lived under this guise of we stand for truth and righteousness and all that other stuff, and I've never believed that. And when I used to say that, people would be like, man, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And at a certain point, my life was like, okay, do I really need to be the one screaming that the emperor has no clothes on if everybody thinks he has on a nice suit? Shit, I'll just take the red pill. No, I'll take the blue pill and stay just where I'm at.
Some of it is conspiratorial, but a lot of these things are just facts that haven't been publicized.
And now they are.
Well, you could go to the library and there's a book called IBM and the Holocaust. This is chilling shit. IBM. So these are all things that really happened, by the way. This is not conspiratorial.
Right.
It just isn't taught in social studies in public school.
Because they tell you what they need
They want you
to
here,
know.
right. So Prescott Bush, George Herbert Walker, not George Herbert Walker Bush, but George Herbert Walker, Prescott Bush, the son of E.H. Harriman, I forget his name, and then one other guy. These four industrialists financed Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was financed to be a deterrent to communism in Europe. So, and when I say deterrent to communism, not a deterrent to the military force of Stalin, deterrent to the workers rising up. They didn't want the workers to rise up. So they installed Hitler. They financed him. Man, this is crazy shit. And almost many huge American corporations were invested in Adolf Hitler, meaning Adolf Hitler was the biggest client of IBM. And IBM gave him the punch card technology to keep the Jews, to keep catalog of us in Europe.
Now look at this. And then after all of that, how were all of these Nazis able to
so
go
that's
to Central
another,
and South
well,
America?
no, they came here. Operation Paperclip.
But the ones that went there, look at this. There was a pipeline through the Catholic Church that went through France, that went through Italy, that went through all the major countries to get them out of Germany and into places like Buenos Aires or, other places in Central and South America.
Well, those were the high profile, but there were a lot of Nazis who were brought here and given municipal positions. And I mean, this is crazy shit. It sounds conspiratorial,
but all you have to do is read.
All you have to do is dig a little bit, and you'll see that some of it is well-documented fact. Roosevelt, this is where it gets really weird. Roosevelt, there was these four guys tried to get a guy named Smedley Butler to pull a military coup on Roosevelt, so he wouldn't get involved in World War II. Butler, there's footage of Butler coming on and addressing the American people, going, they are trying to buy me to coup. He was a patriot and he wouldn't do it. But you can watch that. So it's not a conspiracy that it actually happened. They were trying to get him to overthrow Roosevelt to keep their money. It was all about their money.
Their money.
And
how
Ford
long did they have
built
these things in place that this stuff was suppressed, but now it's coming out? They have like a 50-year rule with the assassination of Kennedy that nothing can be talked about.
It's sealed until a certain date.
Until a certain time. And so these other things too, but just like lost episodes of Seinfeld or lost episodes of this or that, there's these lost tapes that are coming out and people are going, wait a minute.
But it wasn't lost. It just wasn't publicized.
It wasn't lost.
And it wasn't
was just
circulated.
Suppressed.
It was suppressed.
It was suppressed for the betterment.
Okay. So that kind of stuff is
And now you go back to Obama. And I always like to go back to Obama because I didn't vote for Obama.
In either election?
Either election. And I'll tell you why. I didn't vote for Obama because I did not want to see him be a martyr. Because
you thought he was going to get killed.
I thought he was going to get killed. So every day that went by and he was still alive, I kept waiting for the day when they would kill him. And I thought they'd do it in some kind of cruel way, like in Black History Month or
well, you did not see your worst fear realized.
You know? But at the same time, I saw something even worse. I saw him make a whole bunch of promises, which I knew he wasn't going to be able to keep. And so now, when he was in office, people loved him. Now he's been out of office for a little bit. That love was still there, but now people are starting to tell you how disappointed they were with Obama. But what they don't understand is, really, as much as you wanted to see a black president, what did you think they were going to let the black president do?
I'm telling you, the white Sidney Poitier thing.
You know, we have checks and balances just for that.
I thought he was going to roll. I didn't understand. My friend George actually told me, by the way. He said, Steve, I hate to break it to you. This is right when he was elected, right after he was elected. He said, Steve, I hate to break it to you. But this is a guy 10 years older than me, by the way. Okay, so I'm 43. So a decade older, I don't know how much. You're a few years older than me, right?
13.
Okay,
56.
so this is the same age as the guy who was giving me this heads up. So he said, man, I know you're really excited about Obama, but I got to tell you, man, you got to look where he's taking money from to get to be president. And I went, yeah, man, shut up about that shit. Shut up about that shit, man. This guy's going to be good. He's going to be better than Bush. And he went, no, man, all right, man. All right. And I remember consciously him telling me this. And now I'm looking back and going, wow, man, he was right. I was naive. I was totally naive.
We all were at some point. You know, I mean, we want things to work the way they should work. But you don't understand there are deeper levels than that. And I get into this with people all the time because people are like, oh, man, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Listen, man, at a certain point of constantly seeing the same thing over and over and over, you just get snuffed out. Your concern is like, man, you know what? Even if they put him in, which is what people are saying now, he's still doing the same
Manchurian
thing.
Candidate? They put him in when you say it like that?
You know, even if they allowed him to be the president.
Well,
because
70 million people voted for him. I mean,
they could have pulled an electoral college and just said, whoa. You know
I don't think so, man. I think he was really that popular. I believe this.
I mean, he was really popular.
I know they can rig the election, the general election, but I don't think it's I think they didn't need to for Obama.
Right.
I think they needed to for Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton would have needed a rigged election because she was so deeply, hugely unpopular. She is so deeply, hugely unpopular.
How do you win the popular vote? And
by the
lose?
way, 14% of people who voted for Obama voted for Trump. So that's like nine.
That's a lot of people.
That's 9 or 10 million people, man. That's a huge.
She was so disliked. And I don't know whether that was a woman thing or you just hate Clinton money.
It wasn't a woman thing because there are other female candidates who are.
But that's what people were saying too. We would have voted for the others before we voted for that bitch.
Well,
I've heard that.
maybe those like real hard right wing.
You know what I mean? Because there were a lot of people that just didn't like her politics.
Yeah.
And didn't like her. And I thought she was a little disingenuous too. Anytime you go to Harlem and then you're from the Hamptons and you're putting on this accent, you know, with the fried chicken and everything.
Oh, no.
Lord, child.
Oh shit! I never saw that.
Oh my God, she went to Harlem, man, and basically, you know, adapted to every stereotype, you know, about black people. You know, trying to appease
was that
black
the
people.
hot sauce?
Yeah. You know,
man.
Child, Lord, yes, and you know, I mean, come on, just
man. It
talk
wasn't
to us.
even a good. It wasn't even a good counterfeit.
It wasn't even a good counterfeit, but. That's not to say that every president doesn't do that. You know, I like to
some
read
better than
sometimes,
others.
You know,
I mean, Bill was probably a little better than Hillary.
Bill was better than Hillary. You know, a lot of people didn't know, you know, about the Dixiecrats, you know, and all this other stuff. So, you know, people know how to play people. And as we talked to one of your producers, you know, understanding the demographics of how to capitalize on this and move, you know, a certain way as you see people gravitating toward this. That's what politics is.
Well, that's what they did with in the Bible Belt when they realized the corporate Republican were now evangelicals, right? That's my childhood, the 80s, 90s. But the whole thing with, this is where I get into, because I'm not from here. Okay, where are you from?
I was born in New York, but I was raised in California.
Okay, but you've been East Coast, West Coast. See, I'm from Chicago, and then I spent a period of years in Florida. Man, whiter than Hillary Clinton's ass in the wintertime.
Just
It's
go down under the
really
county, same thing.
redneck, by the way, highest rated Fox affiliates in the country are in that area where I went to college and high school. And I saw that, and I come out here, and I have friends who went to Berkeley. By the way, these are the kind of people I moved here to meet, the thinkers, the readers, the writers, the creative people, you know. And but they all think that anyone who voted for Trump is a racist.
Or an idiot.
And right, or a sexist, or a bigot, or an anti-Semite. And they can't be confronted with the fact that 9 or 10 million people voted for Obama, voted for Trump. So, and
Those people are sellouts.
These are
and idiots.
super smart, bright people, but they don't have an experience of living with someone who voted differently than them. Or
And you said a key thing. You came out here to be around the thinkers, but now you're seeing that the thinkers kind of just think one way. You know, it's not like the '60s when people had like this wide spectrum of thought. You're either left,
right,
or you're right. You're either conservative or you're liberal fascist. You know, so it's like the people that used to like just go, let me analyze the whole thing, are not around as much anymore. People go into a box and say, Republican, 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 Democrat, Democrat,
right.
Democrat.
Blue team,
Democrat.
red team. When I was a kid, there was a movie called The Never-Ending Story.
I didn't see that, but I saw bits of it.
So it's about a kid who becomes who's sent on a quest to save the universe, and they tell him you need to go to the wisest creature in the land. The wisest creature in the land will tell you. So he goes to the wisest creature. Oh, he's being hunted by a wolf. All right, the wolf is the bad guy. Let's just say, right?
Wolves get a bad
The
rap.
wolf is out to get him. It's some wolf-like beast, and he's out to get him. And so he's running away from this wolf, and he finds the wisest creature in the land is a giant turtle. It's a giant tortoise.
The
And it
symbolic
wakes
metaphor of
up.
that.
He wakes this fucking thing up. He goes, I've been asleep for 1,000 years. And the kid's like, well, you're the wisest creature in the land. Tell me what the fuck to do. Because if you don't tell me what the fuck to do, we're all done. And this giant wise creature laughs at him and goes, we do not know what to do. And even if we did, we would not tell you. And he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Right? So he goes on the quest. I'm going to like speed this up so you realize the wisest creature in the land doesn't know shit. This is, by the way, why I love the 60s and 70s people, because they're the ones that do this shit. The wisest creature, this is the commentary, the wisest creature in the land doesn't know shit, and he gets to the end of the movie and he's confronted with the wolf. And the wolf explains to him, the wolf doesn't know he's the adversary. The wolf, everything's coming to an end. The real evil, the nothing, is sweeping across. And then it's coming for everything. The wolf, it's coming for the hero, it's coming for everybody. So the wolf tells him, I can't remember exactly the monologue, but the wolf tells him that he's been working for the evil. He's been trying to help the evil because he felt like the evil would reward him. And he says, and what it does, the evil does, is it makes people afraid. And when people are afraid, they're easy to control. And you realize, as an adult looking back on this movie, the commentary of this movie is, the bad guy is the wisest creature in the land.
There it is.
And the one they thought is the wisest creature in the land is the college professor. The college professor who doesn't know shit, and the Republican who knows if he partners with the evil, it will promote him.
He'll get a reward.
That's the commentary of this kid movie. It was a kid movie, by the way.
Let me tell you something. Kid movies are some of the most insightful movies for people with insight. People that don't have insight, they watch them and they go, oh, that was great. I took my little daughter or whatever, and they miss the whole fucking story. I can tell you so many movies that I have watched that have just made me just sit back and watch how people move.
What was it? Can you remember a specific?
Look at the Transformers, Five Faces of Darkness. Or there was a book that I read.
You mean the original
the
cartoon?
First generation, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We have looked in the face of our oppressors, and now we know who they are. That's Optimus Prime. They basically didn't know who was trying to hold them back. But then they realized it was the motherfuckers who created us.
Oh, that's
They
great.
got us going back and forth. We were the same, but some of us were workers and some of us were like military. But we lost our connection and we war with each other because the motherfuckers that created us know if we ever get together, we'd be able to overthrow them. There would be
so they
no.
keep you separate, keep you apart.
That's the whole.
That's our whole comedy. That's our whole comedy metaphor, brother.
You know.
That's our whole comedy metaphor.
And that's the beauty of comedy, though, because, barring getting killed or anything like that, or somebody throwing a chair like Steve Brown, you really get to poke at the bear every night. I just did a show, and I was like, what did I say that night? I was like, I saw a guy on YouTube, a policeman on YouTube negotiating with a guy who he knew had a gun. And even before I knew the suspect's color, I knew the suspect was white. Because police don't negotiate with black people that they know have guns and that they can see that the man's hand is inside with the outline of the gun. Usually because the guy was screaming, "Don't make me do it, man. Come on, man, get your hand out of your pocket. I can see the gun. Don't make me do it." That would have been a black dude that would have been like, "Psh, psh, see, man, see what you made me do 21 times. Come on, man." And it's like we stay divided because we don't know anything. We think we know everything, but we know nothing. The smartest man in the world is the man that says, "I know nothing. Please educate me."
And this comes back to my gentleness thing, because when you tell people straight up what you want them to think, they get that you're smarter than I am. And so that's so the gentleness part is not going in like that, I think, and then letting the person come to their own conclusion is works better.
With everything that you possess too, with everything that we possess as you get older, unless somebody asks you, who the fuck are we to be giving all this shit away?
Well, for me, it's when I'm in conversations with people and everybody's. And by the way, man, when you get with rich liberals, and when I say rich liberals, I mean people who are living in Brentwood or Westwood. Not to brag that I have that kind of life. That's Eddie's line. That's Eddie's line. I'm starting to mingle more with the boutique liberal, and so I want to assert my. So my thing is, man, just be gentle, because they're not going to know what the fuck you're talking about. And so and what do I know? And some of these people, by the way, here's the deeper truth. A lot of them are nice, and they're cool, and they've helped my life and been good friends. So this is another thing. Like one of the guys on that thread was a good friend. He was a good friend, and I was like, man, I'm hurting people's feelings.
But good friends, Stephen,
yeah, but
they're gonna give you that second run. It's like there's no way I was gonna be like, man, when I see you, you know what I mean? I'm like, it was like a heavyweight hit to the head. Here's a guy who has championed corruption and this and that, and has come to the defense of African Americans and showing the bullshit that goes on with them. But now he's over here. I gotta know how
he really
got over
there.
here.
I'm not over there.
And I wanted to know what dragged you over there.
It appeared to you and to others.
Because we only saw
Uncle
the
Tom,
narrative.
Obama.
Yeah. But here's the thing too, because I was just talking to somebody else, and like you said, me and this guy, we were having a spirited discussion. He's a colleague, he's a friend, but he just didn't get it. And after a point, I just had to go, whoa. And then recently I got an invitation to like something, and my feelings were still kind of raw, but I said to myself, he's my guy. Even in the midst of my feelings, remembering all of that ugly exchange and unnecessary exchange. I'm like, he's my guy. And that's how I've always felt about you. Mike Battaglia is another guy that I just love.
Man, we had a good times, man. But they were also rough times.
They were rough times, but they made
man,
diamonds.
They were so cool.
Pressure
Man,
bust
did they
pipes.
ever. Incredible.
You know, I wouldn't take away anything, you know, because like now, you know, I can enjoy the fruits of that labor. You know, I can say things on stage that you might look at a 21-year-old and go, who the fuck are you to be talking like that? You don't know what you're talking about. But at the same time, I can peel back the layers and tell you about it and make it funny. You know what I mean? Because that's our moniker. Laughter and tragedy, comedy and tragedy. And that's what we do. And that's why I love what I do. That's why I love where I live. And that's why, unless I'm meeting somebody that's like, yo, man, fuck black people, fuck you, I ain't got no dialogue for you, this, that, I'll always have dialogue.
Tell everybody your, Trenton, your social media handles so people can follow you.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, The Real TSJ, or Trenton Stuart, Stuart Jones. And just come on board and listen to the nonsense, because we got a whole bunch of stuff coming up this year. And we're just talking about the real. You know, you might not agree with Kanye West 100%, but is he really crazy?
Emma, where are we at?
An hour and 10.
Okay, we need to go. I'm Stephen Lally on behalf of Eddie Pepitone. Emma, our engineer.
Thank you all for having me.
PepTalksPodcast.com. Hit the donate button. Send us an email. I don't know the email, but send us an email if you can. Call us. Leave us a message. We really miss your messages and your everything. And on behalf of Eddie, I'm Stephen Lally, and this is Trenton Stuart Jones. And we will see you next week. And if we don't, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you do.
Whatever you do.
Enjoy yourself. Be safe. Peace.
Even if you do nothing.